a captain in full uniform, a fallen soldier waiting on the tarmac, and an airline that made the wrong call. What happened next had an entire nation watching. The airport buzzed with the usual noise, rolling suitcases, overhead announcements, a line snaking past the ticket, counters, families hugging goodbye, business travelers impatiently tapping their shoes. It was ordinary until he walked in. Captain Michael Harrington, straight-backed, in his army dress uniform. The brass polished, the ribbons aligned. He carried no luggage, only a folder of papers and the weight of duty. On his shoulders, his eyes didn't wander to the coffee stand or the gift shop. They went straight to the departure monitors. One flight mattered, the one that would take him and the remains of Corporal Ryan Hall back home. Ryan was 22, a small-town kid who loved baseball and volunteered at his church before enlisting. Now his body rested in a flag-draped casket on the tarmac waiting for escort. Harrington had done this before, too many times, but each time felt heavier. As if grief itself remembered him and refused to let go, he took a deep breath, approached the airline counter, and set down his paperwork. Escort orders, identification, travel documents, the young agent behind. The desk glanced at the papers, then at him. Her polite smile flickered, replaced by a crease between her brows. She typed at her keyboard, the seconds stretched long. Finally, she looked up, her tone uneasy. Sir, I'm sorry, but there's a problem with your ticket. Harrington blinked, once calm, controlled. What kind of problem? The agent shifted in her chair as if wishing she could disappear. I'm afraid you won't be able to board this flight, not with this assignment. Harrington kept his expression steady, his voice level. I am escorting the remains of a fallen soldier. He tapped the folder. Every detail is cleared with the Department of Defense. The agent's smile returned, but it was thin, brittle. I understand, sir, but there's a security protocol in place, and I can't override it. Protocol, Harrington repeated, slowly, as if testing the word. Protocol that prevents a soldier from fulfilling his duty. Her silence confirmed what he already suspected. It wasn't protocol, it was something else. The line behind him shuffled, restless. Someone coughed, another sighed. But conversations began to slow as travelers sensed the tension in front of them. Harrington didn't move. He had stood in hostile villages and foreign palaces. Alike, he knew how to wait, but he also knew when he was being stalled. He leaned slightly closer, not aggressive, not threatening, just steady. You understand what's at stake here, ma'am? A young man is waiting outside. A son, a brother. He deserves to go home with honor. The agent's gaze fell to her keyboard. She whispered something to her co-worker, who shot a nervous glance at Harrington. The moment hung heavy. The man behind the desk looked trapped, her fingers frozen above the keyboard, sweat gathering along her hairline. The veteran stepped forward, voice low but steady. Son, I've seen bureaucracy in my day, but I've never seen them keep a man from honoring the fallen unless they've got something to hide. Harrington didn't move. He didn't need to. The silence pressed down, heavier than any shout. Then a voice from 3 rows back. Young clear. Excuse me, sir. Are you saying he can't escort a fallen soldier? The crowd stirred louder now. No longer whispers, but questions, sharp pointed. The supervisor raised his hands, attempting control. Passengers, please remain calm. We're handling this. Handling it. A mother with a stroller snapped, this is not how you handle it. Her phone was already raised, live streaming, the words appearing across her screen. The caption bold, they're stopping an army captain from escorting a fallen soldier. Harrington's jaw tightened, but his discipline held. He had fought battles with fewer witnesses than this, but never with stakes like these. He looked at the supervisor. I'm not asking for favors, I'm asking for respect. Respect for Corporal Ryan Hall. The name carried through the terminal like a challenge. The veteran whispered it once more. Hall, as if committing it to memory. The supervisor cleared his throat. Sir, if you'd please step aside while we sort this out. Step aside, Harrington repeated calmly, as if weighing the phrase step aside. From my duty, no, sir, I will not. Behind him, the crowd murmured. Behind the desk looked trapped, her fingers frozen above the keyboard, sweat gathering along her hairline. The veteran stepped forward, voice low but steady. Son, I've seen bureaucracy in my day, but I've never seen them keep a man from honoring the fallen unless they've got Something to hide, Harrington. Didn't move, he didn't need to the silence. Pressed down, heavier than any shout, then a voice from 3 rows back. Young Clear, excuse me, sir. Are you saying he can't escort a fallen soldier? The crowd stirred louder now. No longer. Whispers, but questions sharp. Pointed the supervisor. Raised his hands. Attempting control, passengers, please. Remain calm. We're handling this. Handling it, a mother with a stroller. Snap, this is not how you handle it. Her phone was already raised, live streaming, the words appearing. Across her screen, the caption bold, they're stopping an army captain from escorting a fallen soldier. Harrington's jaw tightened. But his discipline held. He had fought battles with fewer witnesses than this, but never with stakes. Like these, he looked at the supervisor. I'm not asking for favors, I'm asking for respect. Respect for Corporal Ryan Hall. The name carried through the terminal like a challenge. The veteran whispered it once more. Hall, as if committing it to memory. The supervisor cleared his throat. Sir, if you'd please step aside while we sort this out. Step aside. Harrington repeated calmly, as if weighing the phrase, step aside from my duty. No, sir, I will not. Behind him, the crowd murmured approval, the shift undeniable. The airline had made a mistake, and everyone in that terminal knew it. Phones were rolling, streams were live, and Harrington hadn't raised his voice once. That was what made it powerful. The supervisor glanced toward the back, desperate for backup, but none came. The veteran folded his arms, voice carrying for all to hear. This is shameful. This man is carrying one of ours home, and you treat him like an inconvenience. People nodded, muttered agreed, and still the cameras rolled. The agent tried typing again, but her hands shook, the pressure building thicker, heavier, like storm clouds before a strike. Harrington adjusted his cap, squared his shoulders. He had been here before, not in airports, not in lines, but in places where silence could mean survival and standing tall meant everything. He wasn't moving, not until Ryan Hall was on that flight, and the crowd knew it too. What began as an inconvenience had transformed into something else, something the airline couldn't control anymore, and the consequences were only just beginning. The air in the terminal was thick. No one moved, no one spoke, except for the faint clicking of phones recording every second. Captain Harrington stood firm, eyes forward, shoulders squared. He wasn't just a man in uniform anymore. He was a symbol of something bigger, and the airline staff knew it. The supervisor shifted, uncomfortably, beads of sweat forming at his temple, finally muttering, I'll get my manager. He hurried away, leaving the young agent behind, pale and stiff as stone. For a long moment, the counter felt frozen in time. Then a voice broke through, steady and low, the Vietnam veteran again. You're not alone, son. Harrington gave a short nod. Nothing more. His training kept him centered. But inside, he knew the tide had shifted. This wasn't just about his mission anymore. It was about every soldier who had ever been told to wait, to step aside, to take less than the respect they'd earned. Minutes later, the supervisor returned, but not alone. Beside him walked a man in a sharp navy suit. His tie knotted perfectly, his ID clipped with authority. This wasn't just a manager. This was damage control. He scanned the crowd, the cameras, the veterans, capped the soldier at the counter. His smile, professional but thin. Captain Harrington, he said briskly, I apologize for the misunderstanding. There's been a miscommunication, Harrington repeated, his voice low and steady. No, sir. There's been disrespect. The words landed heavy. The crowd murmured in agreement. The suited man adjusted his tie clearly. Rattled, he forced his voice smoother. Of course, we're working to resolve this right away. We'll have you seated in first class immediately. First class. Harrington's jaw tightened as if the offer was an insult. I'm not here for upgrades. I'm here to escort Corporal Ryan Hall home. The crowd stirred again. A young woman near the front raised her phone higher, her voice sharp. Then let him do it. The suited man tried to smile again, but it faltered, his eyes darting to the glowing screens around him. He knew what everyone knew. This wasn't staying in the terminal. It was already gone. Viral. A student held up his phone. It's trending, he whispered, his screen lit with a storm of posts, headlines. Hashtags veterans deserve better. Let him fly. The airline was already losing the battle. Harrington didn't gloat. He didn't smile. He stood steady, his eyes never leaving the representative. You know, this wouldn't be happening if no one was watching. The suited man opened his mouth, but closed it again. He had no answer. The silence stretched before he finally exhaled. Captain, we are deeply sorry. Our intention was never to block your duty, Harrington. Cut him off, but you did. The crowd hummed in agreement. The weight of truth pressed down harder than any speech. Then the Vietnam veteran spoke again, loud enough for the whole line to hear. In all my years, I've never seen a uniform treated like this. Shameful, pure, shameful. A cheer rippled through the crowd. Soft but real passengers clapped. Phones still raised. The young agent at the counter lowered her eyes, refusing to look at Harrington. She had no script for this moment. Before the suited man could speak, again a new voice cut through, commanding, precise. Captain Harrington turned sharply. A tall officer in army fatigue strode forward. Major Daniels, his badge glinting, his walk firm. The crowd parted instinctively. The presence of real authority undeniable. Harrington saluted quickly. Major Daniels returned. It is face solemn, sir. We've been briefed on the situation. The department has intervened. Your escort orders are fully validated. You will not be flying commercial. The words cracked through the terminal like lightning. The crowd gasped. The suited airline rep. Blanche, sir, we were just about to. Major Daniels cut him off. No, you weren't, he said coldly. You were obstructing, and the United States Army doesn't tolerate obstruction. When it comes to our fall in the terminal, erupted clapping murmurs, shouts of agreement. Phones raised higher. The airline staff shrank back. Major Daniels turned to Harrington, his voice crisp. The Pentagon has arranged military transport. Corporal Hall will travel with you with the dignity he deserves. Harrington's chest rose and fell once with a long breath. Relief, not for himself, but for Ryan Hall's family waiting at home. Understood, sir. As Daniels gestured for Harrington to follow, the veteran stepped forward, his voice rough but proud. Bring him home, son. Harrington nodded firmly. I will. The crowd broke into applause, genuine, not polite, not casual, real applause that rolled across the terminal like thunder. People wiped at their eyes. Strangers clasped hands. Passengers recorded every second, knowing they were part of something larger than a delay or a ticketing error. This was about respect and accountability. Harrington turned once more before following Daniels, his voice calm, steady, but cutting through the noise. Respect shouldn't require cameras. Respect should be standard. The suited rep flinched as if struck. The words were already flying across social media, carried by every live stream, every shaky phone video. The message clear. The walk to the private exit felt heavier than any march Harrington had ever taken. Behind the glass doors, down a secured hallway and onto the tarmac where the flag-draped casket waited. The sight never got easier. The stars and stripes laid carefully across the young man's remains. Ryan Hall, 22 years old, son of Linda and George Hall, brother to Emily. Never again to see home except like this. Harrington stopped, placed his hand gently on the wood and whispered, "You're not alone anymore." The military transport waited, engines low, ramp lowered, soldiers already in place. The transition was swift, practiced, solemn as the casket was lifted aboard. Harrington followed his stride, measured eyes straight ahead. Inside, he took his seat, not cushioned by luxury, but by purpose, beside Ryan Hall, where he belonged. Back inside the terminal, the fallout was already burning. The videos had reached millions. Hashtags climbing, trending worldwide. The airline's name dragged across every platform. Veterans groups issuing statements, politicians weighing in, some calling for hearings. Accountability demanded, and the passengers who had witnessed it firsthand, their voices amplified, carried into the storm. By the next morning, headlines blared across television and radio. Soldier blocked from escorting fallen brother. Public outrage grows. The airline scrambled. Statements released. Apologies drafted. Employees suspended, but the damage was irreversible. The stock dipped. Lawsuits threatened. Advocacy groups mobilized. The public furious, and yet Captain Harrington paid no attention to any of it, because his mission was not publicity. It was not vengeance. It was not even the fight for respect that the crowd had taken. Up, it was Ryan Hall's journey home. Later that week, commentators debated policies, CEOs gave speeches. Veterans demanded reform, the hashtag still trending, but for Harrington, the lesson was simple: respect should not hinge on exposure, on outrage, or on cameras. Respect should never be optional. And the passengers who spoke up, the veteran who refused silence, the strangers who recorded and demanded better, they proved something vital. When people stand together, injustice loses its shield and dignity is restored. Harrington adjusted his cap one last time, staring at the horizon. The fight for respect never ended, but today at least one soldier got the homecoming he deserved.